As an American neuroscientist and tenured associate professor at Stanford University, Andrew Huberman engages in studying the fields of neurobiology, psychiatry, and behavioral sciences in an effort to better understand the human brain and how he can help people better understand that knowledge so that they can enhance their physical and mental performance, while also optimizing their levels of productivity, motivation, fulfillment, and overall fullness of life. If you consume online content from the self-improvement niche to any extent, you have by no doubt come across the work, research, and content of this very intelligent man. This guy is everywhere on the internet, and for a good reason. What most people love about Mr. Huberman is that he discusses research-backed, evidence-based systems for brain optimization that can be conveniently integrated into one's life and readily applied on a day-to-day basis. On the shows that Andrew hosts, he helps listeners to understand many different topics, ranging from alcohol and how it affects the brain, fasting and fat loss, how caffeine affects the body, the ins and outs of cannabis use, meditation, and a whole host of other topics. And he skillfully articulates this information with a sincere matter-of-factness and an unconventionally bland but also endearing sense of humor.
If you were to instruct someone to do the worst possible things in the morning, what would they be?
Wake up and stay in bed. Well, wait, there are good reasons to stay in bed in the morning.
He presents his findings in an easily digestible manner that can be effortlessly understood by the average Joe, while still covering and addressing all the subtle scientific nuances present in the real world. As the kids would put it these days,
he absolutely out here spitting facts.
what the fuck? So, if you wanted to sum up the work of Andrew Huberman into one singular sentence, you could simply say, science-based brain and body optimization for everyday life. So, as the administrator of a YouTube channel that is devoted to producing self-improvement content for men who want to squeeze the most out of this short experience we call life, I've committed to, for one full week, to follow the systems and protocols that Andrew advocates for brain, body, and life optimization. Over the next 7 days, I'll be making a series of lifestyle changes and adhering to the daily practices Andrew prescribes for raising energy, alertness, and productivity in the early parts of the day, along with implementing his recommended habits for increasing levels of peace, fulfillment, and satisfaction in the latter parts of the day. I will document this process and then share my results with all of you at the end of the week. Each one of these 7 days will be split up into 2 separate phases. Phase 1 will range from the time I wake up until the mid to late afternoon. This phase will be dedicated to capitalizing on the increased drive and vigor I'll have from the elevated levels of cortisol and dopamine in my system in the early part of the day by knocking out the important tasks of the week and maximizing my overall level of productivity. There are 5 key habits that Andrew recommends to insert into phase 1 for maxing out your productivity, focus, and energy levels. And they are as follows. Habit number 1. Upon waking, expose your eyes to direct sunlight as soon as you are able to.
What does your morning routine look like at the moment?
When I wake up, I make a beeline for sunlight. The single best thing you can do for your sleep, your energy, your mood, your wakefulness, your metabolism is to get natural light in your eyes early in the day. It takes about 10 minutes or so. Really, the quality studies on humans that have looked at this say try and get as much natural light as you can in the morning hours, whenever it is that is for you, especially the first 3 hours after waking. If you can get outside, that would be fantastic. So I get sunlight.
Good morning. The beast has awakened. It is, I believe, 6:58 in the morning. Sleep wasn't as good as I would have liked it to be, but, you know, it is what it is. There's really nothing we can do about it now. Let's go get that fucking sunlight. After I soaked in as much sunlight as I could fathom, that led us on to habit number 2. Habit number 2 is to hydrate your system.
I hydrate, I drink water.
Are you doing any salts during that time? Are you taking any electrolytes in?
I am a fan of water with element.
Yep.
Before I had element packets, I would just take a little bit of sea salt. I love that stuff.
But yeah, I mean, that's just the best way. That cold glass of water and that first thing in the morning.
I proceeded to chug some first form electrolytes mixed with ice water. The taste wasn't the best in the world, but, you know, it had all the essential nutrients I needed, so it got the job done pretty much. Next, I brushed my teeth, trimmed my shaggy baggy, and then moved on to habit number 3, which is to work on some sort of cognitively taxing task for 1 to 2 hours.
So, okay, we've got 90 minutes deep. What have you been doing in that? You've had your light in the eyes. What have you been doing between that and the yerba mate 90 minutes?
I do everything I can to take care of a few critical tasks. These days, I have this obsession with trying to do one cognitively hard thing a day. One. In that 90 minutes, I'll typically try and read a research article start to finish, or I'll work on a document that I might be doing a grant or a research paper. I try and get my brain into kind of a linear mode. I try and narrow that aperture. So I'm not necessarily trying to finish something in that time, but I try and do something challenging.
I did some brainstorming for future videos and finished up a script I was working on. And then at 8:45, I was ready to move on to habit number 4. Habit number 4, consume caffeine 90 to 120 minutes after waking up.
Doesn't caffeine just make you feel like you're not tired?
So this is a really cool mechanism. Caffeine is an adenosine antagonist. It basically, as the longer you're awake, adenosine builds up in your bloodstream. It's what makes you feel fatigued. Caffeine essentially blocks the adenosine receptor, but then when caffeine wears off, the adenosine that's still around binds to that receptor and you crash. You feel really sleepy. So one thing that you can do is when you wake up in the morning, don't ingest caffeine for the first 90 minutes or so. Then you drink caffeine, and what you'll find is that if normally you would crash around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you don't experience that crash anymore because the caffeine wears off, but there isn't a lot of adenosine there to bind the receptor.
The main reason we are delaying this intake of caffeine for so long is because we want to give our body enough time to naturally eliminate all the adenosine that is still present in our system upon waking, so that the caffeine will operate with more potency and efficiency in our body. Because we're structuring our caffeine intake like that, I'll need to consume less for the same desired effect, and also that caffeine will last longer and come with fewer side effects. A very simple habit, but also an extremely powerful one as well.
All right, we've started consuming our caffeine, and that leads us on to habit number 5.
I generally will then do some sort of physical workout.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything.
Okay, so those are the 5 main habits for phase 1. After training was completed, I took a short walk, drove home, and then I had a period of a few hours to pretty much do whatever I wanted. Mr. Huberman chooses to work, so that's what I did as well. So after I work for another 2 to 3 hours, we'll then enter phase 2. Phase 2 is basically from the late afternoon until whenever I decide to go to bed for the night. This phase of the day is meant for finishing up whatever last few smidgens of work I may have left from the morning, and then allowing my mind and body some time to rest and recuperate. There are 3 daily practices Andrew implements into his phase 2. Habit number 1 for phase 2 is a short yoga nidra nap.
And then I'll take a yoga nidra nap or a nap and then come back refreshed.
This one is recommended if needed, but it is not necessarily required. The reason this habit is not required is because we're not necessarily trying to nap just for the sake of napping. It's about gauging how you feel in terms of energy, fatigue, focus, and mental clarity, and then based on how you feel in all those areas, gauging whether a short nap would enhance the rest of your day or whether it would take away from it.
All right, so it's about 3:30, just finished editing some videos, writing some scripts, basic, boring business stuff. He recommends a yoga nidra nap if needed, but right now I feel way too freaking antsy and energetic to take a nap. So what I'm gonna do, I still want a mental break, just a way for my mind to be able to relax and unwind. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go take a walk for about half an hour to 45 minutes, do some active recovery, maybe a little bit of meditation on the walk. It's important to have those intense periods of focused work, but then in the off time, you really allow your mind to actively unwind and actively rest, so you can come back stronger to that next intense period of work. Let's hit the fucking walk. I know I already worked out this morning, but that walk turned into more of a run. I have just so much energy today, so why not?
Habit number 2 is, again, for a third time, engaging in some sort of cognitively engaging activity. So basically what I'm trying to do is squeeze out some last little bit of productivity without completely fatiguing my psyche. I don't want to mentally drain myself so much that I'm going to be tired and demotivated the next day. Then after this short period, I will have some dinner and move on to habit number 3. Okay, this third habit isn't necessarily a very specific habit, like
Do this specific duty or something.
what I'm going to do in this last block of time between 6 and 10 p.m. is I'm going to allow my mind to rest. After the intense effort that I'll apply to my daily tasks in the morning, the circulating levels of dopamine, cortisol, and adrenaline in my system will start to wane substantially, and my levels of adenosine, serotonin, and GABA will start to increase. These are generally sedating neurotransmitters that will make you feel good in a relaxed sort of way. It is in this time period that I'll maybe have a drink, watch a movie, maybe hang out with some friends, all the simple, relaxing pleasures that life affords us. I'll simply play it by ear and, allow myself some freedom to enjoy myself and be pretty much just a lazy degenerate before bedtime. But there is one last object on the agenda before we decide to hit the sack after this last habit. Before bedtime, I will be ingesting the sleep stack of supplements that Mr. Huberman recommends for improving sleep quality. There are 3 specific supplements that Andrew Huberman endorses.
Also, there are 3 things that I personally have found to be much more beneficial. I take a cocktail of magnesium threonate or biglycinate, magnesium biglycinate, and then 2 other things. One is very commonly known, which is theanine, 200 to 400 milligrams of theanine. And then the third thing is apigenin, which is a derivative of chamomile. So that cocktail of 50 milligrams of apigenin, 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium threonate or biglycinate, and 200 to 400 milligrams of theanine, for me has been the best way to consistently fall asleep quickly and stay asleep most, if not the entire night, which for me is about 7-8 hours.
Me personally, I'm going to be avoiding the L-theanine because just the way my body responds to it, I do find it slightly stimulating. And in the past, whenever I've taken it before bed, it kept me up for a while. And then when I did finally fall asleep, I had really disturbing and trippy dreams. So I'm not necessarily saying it's bad. It just didn't work for me.
So I just got back from dinner, took my supplements. I'm gonna be hitting the sack in about 30 minutes. I'm super fucking tired, but we got our chamomile tea right here. Besides the L-theanine and magnesium glycinate, Andrew Huberman recommends ingesting what he calls apigenin. It is a chemical compound usually found in plants, mainly chamomile tea. So instead of buying the isolated compound, I just bought chamomile tea. It tastes like ass, but I've noticed that when I've taken this stuff in the past and drank in a full mug before bed, it just knocks me the fuck out. So I'm looking forward to this rest.
The following day.
All right, it's day 2 of day 7, and to be honest, that was some of the best sleep I've ever had in my entire life. The sun isn't actually out yet, so we're gonna have to shuffle around some of the different habits. We're gonna start with the hydration, start on my morning work, then when the sun does come out, like an hour or 2 from now, then we're gonna go get that sunlight. Let's hit it.
I got my morning hydration in with some electrolyte powder mixed with some water, then I worked on some video stuff for an hour and a half. After that, the sun came out, so I headed outside to soak up some of those lovely natural rays our home galactic star was emitting that day. When I came back inside, the time was 8:55, and it was time for me to head to work. So I chugged a cup of iced coffee, got a shower, threw some clothes on real quick, and then headed to my place of employment for the day and clocked in.
8:01 p.m.
That evening, after I got off of work, I picked up a friend, we grabbed some dinner, I ingested the sleep supplement stack, and then it was time to go to bed.
Just finished up day 2 of the challenge. It's been quite a good experience so far. I think even though some of the practices he does recommend, I think they do have a lot of value. I think the most valuable thing in practicing this is having some sort of specific structure for the day. I don't think the exact order of it matters quite as much as some people think. I think it's having some sort of strict structure that you follow every single day, so you have some sort of system that gets you into gear. So, I really like his system, but, you really need to play around and see what works for you.
Day 3.
All right, so we just woke up. Start of day 3. To be honest, my sleep has been better than it's been in a while, and I think that is the combination of the supplements Huberman recommends along with that delayed intake of caffeine in the morning. I pretty much sleep straight through. It's lovely. So let's get this day started and go get some sunlight.
I went out to the balcony of my hotel room and enjoyed a glass of mineral water while relaxing in the morning sunlight. Then I went back to the room and moved on to daily habit number 3. And an hour and a half later, I consumed some caffeine and then moved on to the best part of the day. The freaking gym! After the gym, we stopped and grabbed some breakfast for her because somebody doesn't like practicing intermittent fasting. Khadija, I'm looking at you. And after that, we actually went and got a massage at this really cool massage clinic. It was absolutely lovely. I did not know I was holding that much tension in my body. We then got some shopping done, and around 2:30, I went home and got some work done.
Alright, so here I am approaching the finale of day number 3. So far, everything's been going well, and according to plan, I've got most of the work I wanted to wrap up for the day finished. So I'm just gonna use these last few hours in the day to chill out, relax, and enjoy myself. I'm gonna go pick up one of my good friends. We're just gonna grab some dinner, watch a movie, you know, just some basic normal person shit. Let's get it. So, how was the movie?
Very good. I cried.
We both cried.
We left the theater, grabbed some more food, and then headed back home.
Alright, just got back from the movie and dinner. We got our chamomile tea here with the high levels of apigenin inside. As soon as we do finish that up, we're going to head to bed and hit the sack. Alright guys, just finished the tea, so we're going to bed. Lights out. Alright, good morning. I can't believe it arrived this fast, but it is already day 7. So besides completing all the aforementioned practices in order, to wrap up this last day, I want to go over my personal experience and the main things I took away from this week. The things I liked, the things I didn't like, the things that helped my health and productivity, the things that maybe hindered and took away from it, all that good stuff. So let's get this day started and go get some fucking sunlight. So, there's 3 big things about this challenge that I think had a very positive impact on my life. The first one was that exposure to sunlight first thing in the morning. I do not believe there's any better way to start the day than to take 5 to 15 minutes to just come outside, sit in the silence, and just soak up these lovely warming rays from our home galactic star. It just gives you that extra bit of cortisol and dopamine in the morning, and it just totally, absolutely obliterates that morning grogginess. It just gives me such a powerful boost in energy, motivation, and mental clarity. It is quite lovely. Exposing my eyes and skin to direct sunlight first thing in the morning is an extremely high ROI activity, and I will definitely be implementing this habit into my daily routine for the foreseeable future. The second thing that I really enjoyed about this lifestyle challenge was having those periods specifically structured out in my day, completely devoted to relaxation. A lot of us who are driving towards success and hustling towards a better future can kind of, if we're not careful, get stuck into the more is always better mentality. In terms of work, getting things done, optimizing your day for maximum productivity, sometimes less is more. The prefrontal lobe of our brain can only take so much stress and strain before it needs to chill out, take a break, and decompress. Structuring a very specific period in my day where I could take a nap or take a 30-minute walk if I needed one was extremely beneficial for my overall level of productivity throughout the entire day. Listen, I know it's counterintuitive. You're like, wait, if you're spending less overall time on work, then how are you being more productive and getting more done? Well, because I was actively taking some time in the afternoon to decompress my mind and allow my mind to relax a little bit, when I did go back to sitting at my desk and knocking out my daily tasks, my mind was able to operate at a higher gear than it would have been able to than if I hadn't taken that short, intense mental break. So overall, with that short recovery period structured into my day, I was able to go back into my work and hit it harder and more intensely, and overall, I was able to get more done. The third thing that I really liked about this challenge was that every single day, I had a very specific, definitive structure for my entire day. To be honest, if you know me at all, you know I am not one of the most disciplined people on this planet. I'm probably one of the least disciplined people on this planet. So having a specific set structure for my day was extremely extremely beneficial for my overall level of happiness, fulfillment, productivity, you know, the whole shebang. Each day, as soon as I woke up, I knew exactly what was on my roster of tasks to complete, and I could start checking them off my list for the day one by one. As men, we thrive on having a sense of purpose in our life. And even on a micro level, we thrive when we have some sort of specific objective for each day or even for each hour. So having a set series of tasks that must be completed and then knocking those tasks out with as much intensity and vigor as possible, no matter how trivial those tasks may seem, will give you that sense of purpose and fulfillment that most of us lack in this present day and age. So by having a specific set structure for each one of my days, I really found an immense mental clarity and sense of purpose that I hadn't experienced in a while. And I will definitely be structuring my days out similarly, even after this week is finished. Okay, so now I'm gonna move on to the elements of this challenge that I didn't like so much. And yes, there are a few of them. Just because Andrew Huberman is a super intelligent, well-researched professor, it doesn't mean that every single thing that he recommends is gonna work great for every person he recommends this to. No matter who it is giving you advice, you should take it with a grain of salt. Do your own research and then ultimately test it in your own life and then see if it's beneficial for you. Aspect number one that was not really beneficial for me and my life was waiting 2 hours before consuming my first cup of caffeine and then working out. As a YouTuber, ultimately I'm creating art for my audience. As an artist, I feel I do my best creative work after I've already gotten in some sort of physical movement for the day. And that can be anything from an intense 2-hour lifting session or just a 20-30 minute walk. Having that first bout of exercise first thing in the morning really gives me that mental clarity and alertness, and also that extremely intense forward momentum that keeps me going and keeps me sustained throughout the entire day. So working on a project for about an hour and 30 minutes before I consume caffeine and then exercising, it makes me feel like I'm leaving some of my creative potential on the table, because I know I could create better ideas and better content if I had just exercised first thing in the morning. Sure, avoiding caffeine the first 120 minutes of my day did actually help me avoid the afternoon crash. Andrew Huberman is right on about that. The science behind it backs it up. But giving up that enjoyable hour of exercise first thing in the morning just isn't worth it for me, based on my personal goals. All right, object number 2 on the list is about Andrew Huberman's sleep stack. This one has a couple problems, at least for me personally. 2 of the 3 recommended ingredients that Andrew recommends in his supplemental sleep stack did just not fit the bill for me. As I said before, the L-theanine is actually quite mentally stimulating for me and also gives me trippy dreams even after I do end up falling asleep for the night. So that one's a no-go. The other item I didn't quite like was the apigenin. And this one's kind of weird because on one level, I actually love it. I loved it way too much, but it was hindering the rest of my day. And here's what I mean by that. For me, this compound worked way too good. And the first 2 nights of consuming this supplement, I slept like a fucking baby. It was absolutely amazing. 15 minutes after I consumed that first cup of chamomile tea, I felt like I had just smoked a blunt or ingested some edibles. Like, it was that relaxing for my mind and my body. It was relaxing, but without like the mental stimulation that comes with weed. But the next morning, you know, I had good sleep, so I felt okay. But then the second night and the third night after consuming the chamomile tea, I just felt a little bit like bleh, like a little bit mentally groggy. So for day 5 and 6, I know I said I was gonna follow it on point, but for day 5 and 6 of the challenge, I actually dropped the tea. And then after I dropped it, I no longer had that groggy lethargy in the morning. So yes, it is true, just like Andrew says, consuming apigenin before bed will help you fall asleep and actually stay asleep much faster and for much longer. But you're gonna pay for it the next morning, especially if you take high amounts. Like, don't take apigenin before bed and then expect to hit some sort of like crazy gym PR the next day. It's just not gonna happen, bro. But I still do love the work of Andrew Huberman. Just because some of these specific practices and habits didn't work for me specifically doesn't mean I don't still enjoy his content. And it definitely isn't a knock to him or his work, but it just does go to show that there is no one size fits all for brain, body, and life optimization. Overall though, it was a great experience, and I will be keeping a lot of these habits in my routine for the foreseeable future. Gentlemen, I absolutely hope
you enjoyed the video. And if you did enjoy it, then why have you waited this long to hit that like button? Like seriously, bro, not cool. And if you are a young man who wants to build a strong body and an even stronger mind, I would definitely recommend that you subscribe to my little rinky-dink YouTube channel. I post weekly videos about all things pertaining to your fitness, mindset, and motivation. Gentlemen, that is all for this week, but I think I will see you in the next video. Peace.